There are two types of people trying to implement AI in their business. Those who are constantly overwhelmed, jumping between tools, starting projects they never finish, spending thousands on subscriptions they barely use, and feeling like they're always behind the curve despite their efforts. And those who are making steady progress, implementing one solution at a time, seeing measurable results within weeks, building on each success, and creating significant competitive advantages without the stress and overwhelm. My question is, which type do you want to be? In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to join the second group, and I'll share the 3-step framework I've used with over a dozen businesses implementing AI successfully without the confusion, complexity, or the costly mistakes that trap most people that are new to that world. And by the end of this video, you have a clear, actionable plan to start implementing AI in your business, even if you have zero technical experience or you're completely new to AI. The AI landscape has exploded in the past year. We've seen more advancement in 12 months than in the previous decade. ChatGPT has reached 100 million users in just 2 months and faster than any technology in the history. And it seems like there's a new tool every single day promising to change the world and how we work. This rapid evolution has created what I call the AI overwhelm crisis. And business owners and professionals are bombarded with options, features, and use cases, and they're told they need to implement AI immediately or risk being left behind. And when faced with too many options and no clear path forward, most people default to one or two of the problematic approaches that I see. Number one is the freeze response. They do nothing, overwhelmed by the choices, afraid of making the wrong decision. Or two, which is usually the case, the shiny object syndrome. They jump from tool to tool, implementing haphazardly without a strategy or focus. And both approaches lead to the same outcome, falling behind competitors who are implementing AI strategically and effectively. But there's actually a better way, a simple, structured approach that cuts through the noise and delivers real results without the overwhelm. So part number one is the so-called simplicity framework, a 3-step process that focuses on impact over complexity. Here's how it works. Step number one is to identify one high-impact problem. Instead of trying to implement AI across your entire business, start by identifying a single high-impact problem that AI could solve. The best problem to start with have these common characteristics. They're repetitive and time-consuming, they follow predictable patterns, and they're currently causing bottlenecks in your business. They also have a clear impact on revenue or customer experience. And for example here, a service business might focus on lead qualification, a repetitive process that follows patterns and directly impacts revenue. A content creator might focus on content generation, a time-consuming task that could be partially automated. And the key is to choose one problem to focus on initially, not 5 or 10. Step number 2 would be to choose one simple solution. Once you've identified your problem, choose a single AI solution that addresses it directly. And the best initial solutions have these characteristics. They're easy to implement, think hours or days, not weeks. They require minimal integration with other systems, and they have low learning curve. They also deliver measurable results quickly so you can justify the expense. So for example, if you're focusing on lead qualification, you might choose a simple AI chatbot that asks qualification questions. If you're focusing on content generation, you might choose a specialized AI writing tool for your specific content type. The key is to choose one solution, not try to implement multiple tools at once, because you can't measure which one's good and which one's not. Step number 3 is to create a minimum viable implementation, or MVI. Finally, implement the simplest version of your solution that will deliver value. And this means starting with basic functionality, focusing on the core features, not the bells and whistles, setting up the minimum necessary integrations, creating simple workflows that can be refined later. And as an example here, a minimum viable chatbot might ask 3 to 5 basic qualification questions and route leads accordingly. A minimum viable content system might generate a few drafts first, and then you can edit and refine later. The key here is to get something working quickly that delivers real value, and even if it's not perfect or comprehensive, still gets you closer to your end goal. And this 3-step framework cuts through the overwhelm by narrowing your focus to what matters most, solving a specific high-impact problem with a simple solution that you can implement quickly. So let's look at how to apply each step in more detail. Now we need to identify your high-impact problem, and the first step is overcoming the AI overwhelm in identifying the problem to solve in the first place. And this is critical because choosing the wrong problem can lead to wasted time, resources, and momentum. And here's a systematic approach to identify your high-impact problem. Step number 1 would be to list your time-consuming tasks. Start by listing the tasks that consume the most time in your business. And these could be, just as an example here, responding to customer inquiries, qualifying leads and asking discovery questions, creating content, scheduling meetings, processing documents, or following up with prospects. And my least favorite, generating reports. And the more specific you are about these tasks and what they involve, the easier it will be for you to predict how much time they currently take. Now, step number 2 would be to apply the impact filter. For these tasks based on their impact on your business, and for each task, ask yourself the following. How directly does this affect revenue? How much does this impact the customer experience? Is this creating a bottleneck for other processes within my organization? And how scalable would this be if automated? Rate each task on the scale from 1 to 10 for each question. Now, step number 3 would be to apply the automation filter. Finally, assess how suitable each task is for AI automation, because there might be some that are not. So for each task, you need to ask yourself the following questions. Does this follow a consistent pattern? Are the inputs and outputs well defined? Can success be clearly measured? Is this primarily rule-based, or does it require complex judgment? And rate each task on the scale of 1 to 10 for each question. The task with the highest combined score from the impact and automation filters is your high impact problem, the one you should focus on and start with first. It might not be the sexy one, but it's the one you gotta do. So let me just share a real example here from a client who used this process, and they've identified that lead qualification is their high impact problem because it was consuming 15 plus hours a week, as they had to do a lot of admin work, so it was already time consuming, and it directly affected revenue by determining which prospect got sales calls and which didn't, because they often spent time with tire kickers and not the ones they should have, and it was creating a bottleneck with leads waiting 24 plus hours for a response. And it also followed a consistent pattern with standard questions that were very suitable for automation. And success could have been clearly measured by the response time and qualification accuracy, so it was very measurable task as well. And by focusing on this single problem first, they were able to implement a simple AI solution that reduced response time from 24 hours to 2 minutes and increased qualified leads by 37%, all within 2 weeks of starting. And let me jump behind my screen and show you how it looks. So let's see that in practice. We installed for one of our clients the AI chat agent. And as you can see, there's a contact coming on 1st of April, looking for more options. The agent comes directly in, collecting their name and extracting the pre-qualification information. In that case, it's a financial offer, so we need to extract certain information about their home, their residence, their address, and getting their credit score as well, and information that is sensitive. And as you can see, the agent went back and forth and booked them in directly for an appointment. And all of that was automatic. Key lesson here is don't try to solve everything at once. Identify your single high impact problem and focus there first. Now, part number 3 would be choosing your simple solution. Once you've identified your high impact problem, the next step is choosing the right AI solution for your use case. And this is where many people get overwhelmed again. There are dozens of tools that might address your problem, and each with different features, pricing, and complexity. But here's how to cut through the noise and choose a simple solution. Step number 1 would be to define the must-have features. Start by defining the absolute minimum features you need to resolve your problem. Be ruthless here and distinguish between what you really need versus what is nice to have. For example, if you're automating lead qualification, your must-have features might be the following: ability to ask those qualifying questions in the first place, logic to route leads based on responses, and integration with your form or landing page. Also great to have would be notification when the leads are qualified. That's it. You don't need anything else. You don't need advanced analytics, complex integrations, or fancy dashboards to start seeing value. Step number 2 would be to prioritize the ease of implementation. Prioritize solutions that are easy to implement. Look for tools that have a simple setup process, offer templates or pre-built workflows, require minimum technical knowledge, and provide good documentation and support. And ideally could be implemented within days, not weeks. The goal is to get something working quickly, not to build a perfect system from day one. Step number 3 would be to consider the learning curve. Consider how easy the tool will be to learn and use. And look for the following patterns. Does it have intuitive interface? Is there a guided setup process? Is there a good training resource on how to get started? Do they have responsive customer support? Do they have active user communities that you can use to ask questions? And the easier the tool you learn, the faster you'll see results and the faster you'll build momentum, because in the AI world, things are changing by the day. So if you're in the game, you can win. And step number 4 would be to start with specialized tools. For your first AI implementation, specialized tools often work better than general purpose AI, and building your custom solution because it's a lot more expensive. So for example, if you're building and automating lead qualification, a dedicated chatbot platform might be better than using something custom with ChatGPT. If you're automating content creation, a specialized AI writing tool for your content might be better than general AI writer or just typing in whatever you have to type in ChatGPT. And specialized tools typically require less configuration and deliver better results out of the box because somebody spent the time and the energy to put together that solution in the first place to solve that specific problem you're trying to solve yourself. And this is why a lot of our customers choose to work with Wellgrow, because we have a very intuitive, user-friendly platform to help you build AI voice and chat agents that are deployed directly within your CRM and allow you to call your leads, text them, nurture them over time, and all within a setup for 7 days. So if you haven't yet had a chance to experience how it works, click the link below and book a demo. I'm going to walk you through the software. I'm usually taking the demo calls myself. I can show you how it works and you can get started. We have both done for you solution, meaning setting it up for yourself, or we have onboarding training, support documentation, and hands-on support that can help you navigate if you decide to go on your own. But either way, click the link below, schedule a demo. I'd be more than happy to show you how it works. And especially if you're running advertising, if you have incoming leads, it's an amazing solution for you. And after defining our must-have features, my client considered several options. First, he was building the custom solution with ChatGPT API, which is complex and time-consuming. Two, using a general automation platform, which is again flexible, but there's a steep learning curve. And then third was implementing a specialized chatbot platform with pre-built qualification templates. Was fairly simple and quick to implement, as we've helped him do that. So they opted in with option 3, which was choosing our platform Wellgrow, because we had all the must-have features. It was pre-built qualification templates. It was fairly easy to put together, and they implemented it in less than a week. It required no coding or technical knowledge, just few simple workflows that needed to be set up. And there was also provided a step-by-step guidance to help them get started. And the choice allowed them to implement their solution quickly and start seeing results immediately rather than getting bogged down in complex setup processes. And sure, they are spending a couple hundred a month on the software subscription and they paid a modest fee to get all set up, but they were up and running in 7 days, making money, booking appointments left and right, and making sure no leads slip through the cracks, and making thousands of dollars more than what they invested within a 30-day period instead of waiting months on end, involving their entire team trying to build a complex solution without understanding, and getting technical vendors that the ultimate goal of them is to actually get you to buy more stuff and not actually make you money. And the key lesson here is to choose the simplest tool that solves your specific problem, not the most powerful feature-rich option or the most customizable one. Now, part number 4 is to create your minimum viable implementation. This is where I see a lot of people go wrong, even using our own software. With your problem identified and solution chosen, it's time to implement. And this is where many people get stuck with perfectionism, trying to build the perfect system from day one. And the key to overcoming this is creating the minimum viable implementation, or MVI as I like to call it, which is the simplest version of the solution that delivers value to your business right away. So here's how to create your MVI. Step number 1 is to define your success criteria. Start by defining what success looks like for your implementation, and it should be very specific and measurable, and it should be focused on the business outcomes and not the technical features. There's a lot of nice to haves and you want to play with this and play with that, but it needs to be achievable within a short time frame, ideally 2 to 4 weeks, and it has to be significant enough for you to build momentum. So for example, success criteria for lead qualification system might be the following: reduce response times from 24 hours to under 5 minutes, qualify leads within 80% accuracy compared to manual process, and save 10 plus hours per week of manual qualification time. And having clear success criteria helps you focus on what matters and avoid the scope creep, as I like to call it. Step number 2 would be create a simplified workflow. Design a simplified workflow for your solution. And this should be linear and straightforward, focused on the core process, limited to essential steps only, and easy to understand and explain to your team. For example, a simplified lead qualification workflow might look like the following. Step 1, lead submits a form. Step 2, AI asks 3 to 5 qualifying questions. Step 3, based on the responses, lead either is routed to the booking page if qualified, or send resources if not qualified yet. And you can even add a step C, which is flag for human review if it's unclear what to do with that lead. Avoid the temptation to add complex branches, exceptions, or edge cases at this stage. And I'm sure you've stumbled across these complex workflows and chains of AI agents that can run your entire life, but the reality is that that the more options an agent has, the bigger the room for error, the less the accuracy. And at the end of the day, that's what we're after. We want accurate responses that bring meaningful results to the business at the highest percentage, solving a specific problem. We don't want a solution that does everything. We want one solution that does one thing very well. So avoid that temptation of buying solutions that are too complex to handle, have multiple pieces together that need to be aligned for it to work, and it works only 20-30% of the time, because it's going to be no good for your business. It's going to be just wasted resources, effort, and energy. So step number 3 would be to implement your basic version. And implementing the basic version of your solution might look like the following: set up the core functionality, configure the essential integrations, create a few simple templates or scripts, establish basic tracking so you can get the responses from your AI and know what's happening. And for our lead qualification example, this might involve setting up the chatbot with qualification questions, connecting it to your lead form, and creating response templates for qualified and unqualified leads. Then setting up notifications for your team to either receive email, SMS, or internal notification, and test with real scenarios. This is where a lot of people go wrong. I've had clients who've spent months building solutions without ever testing it or deploying it, and by the time they roll it out, the technology is already outdated. There's a better out-of-the-box tool that is much cheaper to use, and therefore they've wasted time, energy, and resources because they haven't tested their implementation with real scenarios. And by the time the project goes to production, they realize that it's not something that is solving a real problem. It's not what the users want and their customers, and they've just wasted valuable time and resources. So first, run the process yourself multiple times. Test with different inputs and edge cases, and have team members try as well from different perspectives. That will first get them to buy in. And also, if possible, test with a small segment of real users and your customers. These tests will identify major issues before you fully deploy, while keeping the process moving quickly. It is like an intern employee. You have to train it, you have to refine it before you roll it out to the public. Now, step number 5 is to deploy, measure, and refine. Finally, deploy your MVI and start measuring results. Launch with a clear start date. Even if it's not ready, you gotta just ship it. Track your success metrics consistently, gather feedback from users and team members, and make small refinements based on the data and feedback. It's not set it and forget it type of system. You gotta be looking at it, tweaking it for at least the first 60 to 90 days. And the goal is to get your solution working in the real world as quickly as possible, then refine based on the actual results rather than theoretical planning. So here's a real world example of the lead qualification MVI. And continuing our example, here's how my client created their MVI. They defined success as reducing response time to under 5 minutes and saving 10 plus hours per week. They created a simple workflow with 4 qualification questions and 3 possible outcomes: qualified, nurture, and not fit. And they implemented the basic chatbot connected to their form and set up notifications. They tested with 20 different scenarios to ensure it was working correctly, and they deployed the solution and started running ads and seeing measurable results immediately. Then we introduced an AI voice caller trained on the same framework, and within the first 30 days, they were booking 30 extra appointments from the same ad spend they were spending before. And within the first week, they were already seeing significant improvements. Response time dropped under 2 minutes, and they were saving 12 hours per week. And yet the system wasn't perfect, but it was delivering real value quickly. And the lesson here is to start with a simple implementation that delivers value, then refine based on real world examples. Part number 5 is to build momentum with quick wins. Once you've successfully implemented your first AI solution, the key is to build momentum through a series of quick wins. And this approach keeps you moving forward without being overwhelmed. You can then add appointment reminders, you can add automated onboarding, you can have the AI generate some of the client onboarding materials as well. But going back to building momentum effectively, here's what you can do. Step 1, document and celebrate your first success. That's very important. Start by roughly documenting the results from your first implementation, what you learned, what was the process of setting it up, what could you improve for the next one, measure the actual impact against your success criteria, calculate the time and cost savings, and gather feedback from users and team members to get them first more bought in, but you identify things that you might have overlooked. Then identify unexpected benefits or challenges, and make sure that everybody's bought in within the team and everybody's working with the AI to make it better, save everybody's time, and make them more productive, and ultimately help them earn more. Now, step number 2 would be to refine your first implementation. Before moving to a new problem, spend time refining your first implementation. Address any issues or limitations you've identified during the initial phase. Add small enhancements to increase value. Start adding some of those bells and whistles that you were initially thinking about, and improve integrations with your existing workflows and systems. Then create documentation for ongoing maintenance, train your team on it, and this refinement ensures that your first solution continues to deliver value value, even while you expand to new areas. Now, step number 2 would be to choose your next problem to solve. You have to return to the prioritized list of problems and you select the next area to focus on. This ideally should be related to your first implementation to leverage what you've already learned, and similarly needs to be high impact and suitable for automation. And ideally here you can deploy within a longer time frame, and it could be 2 to 4 weeks. And here you're building towards a larger strategic goal and a bolder of a problem. So for example, if you started with lead qualification, your next problem might be automated follow-up for qualified lead. And step number 4 would be to apply the same framework. We love the simplicity framework and it will help you solve your next problem as well. Just choose one high impact problem, select one simple solution, create a minimum viable implementation, and the process gets easier each time as you build knowledge and confidence. And step number 5 is to create a 90-day quick win roadmap. And here's the roadmap of quick wins. Identify 3 to 4 high impact problems to address, schedule them in 2 to 4 week implementation sprints, include time for refinement between implementations, and set clear success criteria for each. This roadmap keeps you focused on continuous progress without becoming overwhelmed by trying to do too much all at once. And let's see how our client built momentum after their initial lead qualification. They documented the results, which was 95% reduction in response times, 12 hours saved weekly, and 37% increase in qualified leads. They refined the system by adding the better handling of common objections and improved the handoff to sales. They chose an automated follow-up as the next problem by introducing AI voice and chat agents, as well as nurturing over email and focusing on leads who were qualified but didn't immediately book a call. They applied the same framework, implementing a simple follow-up system that sent personalized messages based on the qualification responses, and they created a 90-day roadmap that included, for weeks 1 and 2, it was the lead qualification and automation that we've completed fairly quickly. It was the refinement and documentation of the process and getting team on board to actually use the system. And week 5 and 6 was automating the follow-up and implementing that. Week 7 and 8 was refining and setting up the documentation. And week 9 and 10 was meeting preparation automation to do research prior to their meetings and ensure that they get as much information about their prospects as possible. And then left few weeks before the end of the quarter to review everything they've done, measure the results, and plan for the next quarter. And by following this simple approach, they implemented 3 high-impact AI solutions within just 90 days, each building on the success of the previous one. And that combined impact was dramatic because it increased their sales meetings by 40%, they had 25% higher close rate, and there were 22 hours saved weekly, all without overwhelming their existing team or creating new systems. And the key lesson here is to build momentum through series of quick wins, each focus on specific high-impact problem with a simple solution. And here's some of the common pitfalls that I see day in and day out. As you implement AI in your business, there are several common pitfalls that can derail your progress. And let's address these and how to avoid them. Pitfall number 1 is the tool obsession, and I'm guilty here. I love new tools. I love buying new stuff, testing them out. But many people become obsessed with finding the perfect tool and spending weeks researching options and comparing features instead of implementing the solutions, and they never pull the trigger, or they just buy a bunch of tools that they never use. So here's how to avoid it. Set a time limit of a tool research, 1 to 2 day maximum. Focus on solving problems, not collecting tools. And remember that good enough tool implemented always will beat a perfect tool that's never deployed. Start with tools that offer free trials to reduce decision pressure, or get a demo from somebody to show you how the system would actually be deployed. Now, pitfall number 2 is the scope creep. As you implement AI, it's tempting to keep on adding features and capabilities, turning a simple project into a complex one. So here's how to avoid it. Write down your minimum viable implementation before starting. Create a future features list. This is for ideas that arise during implementation. And stick rigorously to your defined success criteria from the beginning. Set a firm deadline for your initial implementation and don't look back. Pitfall number 3 is the perfectionism. Many implementations stall because people try to create the perfect system from the start and they're afraid to launch anything that isn't comprehensive. And here's how to avoid it. Embrace the 70% rule. If it's 70% on the way there, launch it. Remember that real-world feedback is way more valuable than theoretical perfection. And set expectations that the first version will be refined based on results. You should be okay with that. Focus on progress over perfection. And I know this is easier said than done as a perfectionist myself sometimes, but that's what you gotta do. Pitfall number 4 is isolation. Implementing AI in isolation often leads to solutions that don't integrate well with existing workflows or meet the actual user needs. Here's how to avoid it. Always involve key stakeholders from the beginning. Get input from the people who will use it or be affected by your system, and test with real users before full deployment. Always communicate clearly about what's changing and why, and get your team bought in. Now, pitfall number 5 is the all or nothing thinking. Some people believe they need to automate their entire process or nothing at all, and they are missing on opportunities for partial automation that will deliver significant value way beyond what they're currently doing now. And here's how to avoid it. Look for automation opportunities within larger processes. Be willing to create a hybrid system, meaning part AI and part human. Focus on eliminating the most time-consuming parts or the error-prone steps first. Remember that even 30% automation can deliver substantial benefits. And by being aware of these common pitfalls and actively working to avoid them, you can maintain momentum and continue making progress without becoming overwhelmed. This is my first-hand approach, simple, practical, and I've struggled with a lot of the things that I shared, and I know many of you are like that and you're reaching out to me daily, so I wanted to record that video. Not a technical how-to, it will get your mind in the right space. It needs to be to leverage AI, maximize the benefits, and I'm telling you, a lot of people are showing you cool stuff and talking about AI, but there's very few that are implementing it successfully with proven results. So start with the simplicity framework, identify one high-impact problem, choose one simple solution, create a minimum viable implementation, build momentum through quick wins, document and celebrate successes, involve your team, refine your implementation process, and absolutely crush it with a 90-day roadmap that will allow you to implement multiple solutions. Businesses that succeed with AI aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest budgets or the most advanced technology. They're the ones that start simple, focus on high-impact problems, and build momentum through a series of quick wins. By following the approach in this video, you can cut through the overwhelm and start implementing AI in the way that delivers real results without the confusion, complexity, or costly mistakes that trap most people. And if you want to see a specific example of a simple AI implementation that delivers massive results, check out my video where I built an entire AI sales infrastructure that feels like cheating. In that video, I show you step by step of setting up a full AI infrastructure, and if you're a business that deals with leads in any capacity, you can set it up within a month. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where I'll show you how to implement your first AI automation using the exact framework we've covered today.